Alô, invite, invite. Alô? فين هاني؟ سمك انفيت انفيت.
For the next 9 minutes, you'll
نزيد
witness
الصوت
Trump's most
هنا.
audacious takedowns of woke culture, starting with the time when a woke feminist tried to cancel Trump during a conference. She went as far as indirectly calling him a misogynist, and needless to say, it backfired on her. Watch closely.
But I don't think that you're a friend to women.
I knew I shouldn't have picked her. I knew I shouldn't have picked her. All right, so let me give you that answer right now. I respect women incredibly. I have had women working for me in positions that they've never worked in terms of construction, in terms of so many different jobs. I had a woman who was in charge of the building of Trump Tower many years ago, before it was even thought, before anybody would have even thought of it, and did a fantastic job.
شو
I have
بايك
given
يطلع
women more
زي رفلاطة.
opportunity than I would say virtually anybody in the construction industry. I have a daughter named Ivanka and a wife named Melania who constantly want me to talk about women's health issues because they know how I feel about it, and they know how I feel about women. I respect women. I love women. I cherish women. You know, Hillary Clinton said he shouldn't cherish. Well, I said, I do cherish. I cherish women. My mother was one of the great people of the world, maybe the greatest ever. My mother. I respect women, and I'm going to take care of women. You know, Jeb Bush didn't want to fund women's
شو
health
يطير
issues.
كاين
You read that.
من
You saw
هنايا.
it. And then he took it back later.
كاين.
I will take care of women, and I have great respect for
ولاش؟
women, and I do cherish women.
Trump's response was a masterclass in turning accusations on their head. He didn't just defend himself, he went on the offensive, listing his history
كاين
of
في
empowering
السيزون.
women in
في السيزون
male-dominated
كاين.
fields. But she wasn't over. As a feminist, she had to pull out the wage gap debate.
I want to get paid the same as a man, and I think you understand that. So, if you become president, will a woman make the same as a man, and do I get to choose what I do with my body?
You're going to make the same if you do as good a job. You're going to make the same if you do as good a job, and I happen to be pro-life. Okay, I'm pro-life.
In just a few words, he dismissed the entire concept of a systemic wage gap, boiling it down to individual performance. But Trump wasn't done dropping bombshells. In a video published by Trump himself, he fearlessly dives into a red-hot cultural debate. With his trademark bluntness, Trump declares what many think but few dare say. There are only two genders.
As part of our new credentially body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago.
But Trump was just warming up. His crusade against woke culture was far from over. Up next, we're diving into another explosive controversy. Trump's about to weigh in on trans athletes in women's sports, and the audience's reaction clearly shows what Americans truly want.
And by the way, we should not allow men play in women's sports. So crazy. See, it just shows you what these political geniuses, they have all these consultants, all these great...
تو هذا زبيدة ما تعرقش لي أصلا. خليه وين.
That's not written down anywhere. I just said this might be a good time. So they said no to it, and that gets the biggest hand of the world. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
But here's where it gets wild. Trump's got a story about this issue that's so outrageous, it'll make your jaw drop. Just watch.
I tell the story of the great swimmer, great female swimmer, wonderful woman, beautiful woman. She's been swimming for many years. She wants to break the world record, and she's at the pool, and she wants to break it by an eighth of a second. That's like fast. And she's going to do it. She's getting ready, and she looks down. She sees all people she's been competing with for years because they rise to the top, and she looks over here and she sees people, but then she looks and they call this. They say this. She's somebody with a man's body. That's what they do. They call it. I said, you think it's okay to say that? That's actually the expression they're using. They'll change that soon, so I have to do it quickly. I have to say it, because they're going to change it. And you know the guy. He was named Female Athlete of the Year. Did you know that? It's true. He was just named female. We're not dealing with things that are so easy here. It's a difficult, crazy world. You'd almost say, is the world going crazy? Because 99% of the things I'm saying are common sense. But she looks over and sees her friends down there, and then she looks, and this guy is massive. He's got a wingspan, he's got arms that are 30 feet long. And they always say, and she was seriously injured during the meet because he swam so fast that he gave her major wind burn as he went by. And she didn't break the record, but he broke the record that day. You know what the number was? 38 seconds. So she wanted to break it by an eighth of a second, and he broke it by 38 seconds. Or the weightlifter, I think it was like 218 pounds. That's a lot. I can't lift it. I don't know who can. Any of our ex-Trump people, they're all Trump people. Kevin's saying he can lift it. I don't know about that, Kevin, but that's a lot. 218 pounds, and she got over that weight, and she was going to break it. They put a half an ounce here, half little tiny ring on top of these big barbells, dumbbells. And they go, and she went like this. Stood for 11 years. And her mother and father are screaming, you got it! You got it, darling. I'm so proud of my girl. Well, she couldn't do it. And then this guy comes along. He's named Alice. And he looks at the weight. World record. We could have put another couple of 100 pounds on. I think you would have lifted it. It's so disrespectful to women. And they say it's politically incorrect. It's so disrespectful to them. So horrible. So unfair. It's so unfair.
But Trump wasn't done impressing the audience. You know a Trump rally isn't complete without his signature brand of humor. Let's watch as he proves why he's not just a politician, but also an entertainer who knows how to work a crowd.
And I'll tell you what, if I were ever, I'd be the greatest women's basketball coach in this. Because I don't like LeBron James. I like Michael Jordan much better. When I go up to LeBron James, it doesn't matter. I say, LeBron, did you ever have any desire to be a woman? Because what I'd love you to do is star on my team that I'm building up. I will have the greatest team in history. They'll never lose. Nobody will come within 70 points of this team. Now we have to change that, and we have to make it okay to talk about it. You know, the young lady I was talking about is afraid to talk about it. She's shunned and she's canceled when she talks about it. This is crazy. Right, Kellyanne?
Trump's final words land hard. We're afraid to talk about woke culture because it can get us canceled. It's not just politicians feeling the heat, as most of us are holding back because of the consequences. As woke culture grows, so does the fear of backlash. Throughout this video, Trump has portrayed himself as a defender of women's rights. But when asked the seemingly simple yet politically charged question, what is a woman? His response was this.
One of the big questions being put to lots of politicians right now is, what is a woman?
I'm not going to respond to the question, but a woman is somebody that swims at a certain time and doesn't get beaten by 38 seconds by somebody that wasn't even a good swimmer as a male.
And these were the times when Trump offended millions. Subscribe if you watched till the end.
C'était en avril 2013, juste après la mort de Chavez. Son dauphin, Nicolas Maduro, prend le pouvoir et ne le lâchera plus. Presque 12 ans qu'il préside le Venezuela et il en veut 6 de plus. Un Venezuela en crise, une crise amorcée sous Chavez mais qui n'en finit pas. Hyperinflation, pauvreté chronique pour ceux qui n'ont pas accès au dollar. Plus de 7 millions de Vénézuéliens, le quart de la population.
Oh bro, ده ايان ديفيس صاحبي.
Dans toutes les Amériques.
ايان كي قادش الموفمون صاحبي
La
بجد.
dérive autoritaire amorcée sous Chavez continue de plus belle. C'est un régime dictatorial, corrompu et, selon la plupart des observateurs, gangréné par le trafic de drogue. Sa réélection en 2018 était frauduleuse et elle a conduit à des sanctions politiques et économiques de la communauté internationale. Maduro emprisonne ses opposants et il s'arrange pour les rendre inéligibles. Mais surprise, cet ancien diplomate discret, peu connu, est parvenu à se faire reconnaître par le Conseil national électoral. Edmundo González est le candidat de l'opposition et, autre surprise, tous les partis d'opposition sont unis derrière sa candidature. Il veut un Venezuela futur où tous les citoyens pourront se retrouver. À ses côtés, María Corina Machado, la passionnariat de l'opposition. C'est elle qui fait campagne inlassablement, même si elle a été interdite de candidature. Elle n'a même pas le droit de prendre l'avion. La caravane doit donc se déplacer par la route, malgré de nombreux obstacles. Pas accès aux médias qui sont tous liés au régime, pas de ressources financières publiques. L'opposition fait campagne dans un climat hostile. Ce matin, des véhicules de campagne ont été vandalisés et sabotés, les câbles des freins coupés. C'est un attentat, dit María Corina Machado. Plus tôt, le responsable de la sécurité de María Corina Machado a été arrêté et accusé de harcèlement envers ces deux femmes lors d'une altercation. Celle-ci a été filmée et l'opposition jure qu'il s'agissait d'une provocation. Malgré ça, les sondages donnent Edmundo González largement en avance. Reste à savoir si d'ici le 28 juillet, il ne sera pas à son tour disqualifié, si les élections, et on en voit ici une répétition, ne seront pas annulées ou reportées. Et enfin, si elles ont lieu, seront-elles justes et équitables, et les résultats reconnus. Sur les bulletins de vote, Nicolas Maduro figure 13 fois pour chaque parti que sa coalition représente. Edmundo González, lui, n'apparaît que 3 fois. Jean-Michel Lepin, ça du Canada, Montréal.
تعرف بيش ليش تعرفوا بيش صار أنا ما كاين ذبي.
Guess their age.
Okay. Guess their age?
Guess if they're natural or not.
Okay.
And then say what you think they have.
Okay.
Okay, so the first girl is Jess.
Oh my god. I really...
كل شيء تقيل.
38, lips, nose. Yes, obviously she's had some work done, in my opinion.
Harriet.
42. Yeah.
Jesus.
Cheeks, lips, nose, fake lashes, brows.
Okay, perfect.
God damn, that's like the whole thing.
Wait,
is fake. He doesn't even, oh my god.
اصلي شقتها الصنطرة مزيان.
Is that the same person?
No, this
Or yes, it's like her on Instagram versus her like.
In real life.
All right, so I'm gonna look at a real photo.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. She's 35. Lips, veneers, Botox, maybe a little.
I'm gonna laugh if they're all the same age and they're all like 26.
32. Lips, cheeks.
Do you want to know their ages? Just for fun.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so Samantha is 26.
Oh God.
20 years spent on the internet looking at chicks. Bro, how? I'm a professional.
Yep, Nicole is 24.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Harriet.
Wait,
Oh my
حمرا
god.
دي حمرا
Zoomers are
حمرا
speedrunning
دي
Asian.
باين.
This is bad, bro.
It is 24.
Oh my God.
And then Jess is 25.
Wow.
Wow. Born 1999. That's nuts, bro. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't watch this show.
شو
Maybe I
شلون
should,
شو
but
اللي
it's
خاص.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, plastic surgery and inject.
What would you say Trump's IQ really is? Does 160 seem reasonable?
No,
This will be quoted in...
no, 160 is really, really high.
Yeah.
I mean, the typical, the smart person that you're likely to meet in your life has an IQ around 145.
Yeah.
160 is getting pretty damn rare. And Trump's old, and IQ goes down with age, fluid IQ, although crystallized IQ either stays the same or goes up slightly. So he isn't the problem solver or the learner that he was when he was 20. No one is. If you're in good physical shape, that helps a lot. His IQ is clearly well above average. I don't know, and he's done complex things in his life, and a lot of them. And that indicates that there's something to him, you know, and he hasn't been successful just in one domain. He's been successful in multiple complex domains, each of which were quite difficult. It's very difficult to be a reality TV star that's successful, right? It's very difficult to work in the construction business, and especially on large projects. And I know he's had his economic ups and downs, but he's stayed in the game for a long time, very stressful. He's very stress resistant. So he's no dummy. I mean, it's nice to always think that your political opponent is just stupid, but he's done too many complex things for me to assume that he's somehow, if he wasn't smart, he couldn't have done those things.
Yeah, I'm glad you're acknowledging that, because when I see the people that are in hysteric mode and just saying he's this evil nutbag,
Yeah, it goes.
doing all that stuff, it just seems like such a lazy way of thinking about it. You don't have to like any of the things. You may not like the way he speaks or any of that, but the idea that somehow this is a dumb person, I think, is discounting of just the way humans have to work. This is interesting from Super Chat. Do you?
Well, he also won the presidency, right, with a completely original campaign, and it's like, and without spending much money. It's like, okay, is he lucky? Is that what you're saying? It's just lucky.
Right.
Well, I don't think it was just luck. It was at least maybe. Well, it looked at least to some degree like courage. Maybe it was just blind. Throwing caution to the wind, you know, I don't know if he ever expected that he could possibly win.
Yeah, and I'm sure you argue it probably had a little something to do with all those things. That maybe there was some courage, but that he also surrounded himself with people who maybe understood politics more than he did.
Well, he can also obviously read the crowd. Yeah. Because he was appealing to crowds, and that was partly because he did, I think, try to say what he thought. Now, you could criticize what he thought, and that's fine, but he also didn't prepare the same speech. You know, he didn't prepare a speech and then deliver the same one everywhere, which I think is, I really find that rather reprehensible for people to do that.
Yeah.
Because they're parroting themselves, or someone else writes their speeches, which is something I can't even imagine.
I can't. For what we do, I can't even fathom it, actually.
Oh yeah. تفاش.
Trump is a very, very good bully.
Dealing
خدي
with
شوف.
everything we had to do with,
شو؟
look,
بدأ.
if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
It's also not an insult, because while it's also the case that if you're on the world stage and you're dealing with the pathological rulers of pathological states, the probability that you're going to be dealing with bullies is 100%, and Trump actually knows how to do that. And so it makes him unpredictable.
The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world.
It's hard for me to get it right, because it's a limitation in a way, and that's part of what makes Trump such a divisive figure, because people respond with aversion to that bullying element of his character. But it's hard to criticize it too deeply, because it's also arguably what makes him an extremely effective debater, and also possibly capable of making peace on the international stage.
Yeah, I mean,
because people don't know what the hell he's going to do.
What makes Donald Trump such a polarizing figure, and what qualities are essential for those aspiring to enter politics? In this insightful interview, Jordan Peterson delves into the complex character of Donald Trump, describing him as a highly effective bully on the world stage. Peterson acknowledges that while many people find Trump's bullying nature divisive, it also makes him a formidable debater and a potentially unpredictable negotiator in international affairs. For Peterson, the path to political competence requires honesty, articulateness, historical and economic knowledge, and a broad understanding of various disciplines. He calls for individuals who are competent, careful, truthful, courageous, and forthright to step into the political arena to prevent societal degeneration and promote improvement.
What I came to understand was that the issues that most deeply concerned me weren't political, they were spiritual or psychological. Psychological first, say, then spiritual above that.
Yep.
And so I was looking for a spiritual solution, so to speak, in the political, and that was inappropriate. And I came to realize that as I continued to study, and then moved into clinical psychology,
Yep.
and beyond that, let's say. So what's the upshot of that? That doesn't mean that the political has no point and no purpose, and it doesn't mean that you're allowed to be counterproductively cynical about the political.
It's a mistake to be fatally cynical about politics, because for all the reasons there are to be fatally cynical about politics, there's much more reason to be fatally cynical about the conflict that will inevitably arise, or the tyranny that will inevitably manifest itself if we can't handle the dirty business of politics properly. So I would say, don't become prematurely cynical about it. The next thing I would say is, what do you know? And that's a very important question. It's like, what does it mean to get into politics exactly? Does that mean to seek political power? Does that mean to seek power? Well, first of all, you shouldn't be seeking power. You should be seeking competence. And in order to seek competence, you better know something. And so I would say, well, if you want to get into politics, you want to educate yourself, in all the things you need to be educated in life. I mean, you can start to play the political game to familiarize yourself with it, but it's not such a bad idea to have a job for a while, and maybe a career, and maybe it's not such a bad idea to have a successful career in which people are dependent on you, so that you start to understand what that sort of responsibility means. And maybe it's not such a bad idea to have a family, because like human beings, mature adult human beings tend to have families, and they transform when they have families, because when you have children, then someone becomes more important to you than you are, and you're not mature until that happens. And so that's necessary. And so I would say, well, make sure that if you're looking to get into politics, that you're even more looking to get into competence, and that you learn everything you could possibly learn that would make you a reasonably wise person by the time you attain whatever level of power authority, let's say, you might be seeking. I mean, I've seen lots of people get into politics. You know, this happens with ideologues, and the way they ratchet themselves up the power hierarchy is by being more effective avatars
دايرة القلاوة
of their
هذا.
particular ideological stance. And there's nothing about that that's useful. There's nothing in it that will solve any real world problems. And there's plenty that will make it much worse. And so if that's what getting into politics means, I would say stay the hell away from it. But if it's a matter of developing your character and then at some point adopting your social responsibility, then go for it, and more power to you, because you need people who are competent and careful and truthful and courageous and forthright to enter the political sphere so that things don't degenerate and hopefully have some chance of at least maintaining themselves or improving. So what do you need to know? You need to be really good at least one thing. You have to specialize. You have to be a great networker. You have to know a lot of people. You have to be honest. You have to be articulate. You have to have a vision. You have to have a strategy. You have to know something about history and economics and politics. Be good to know something about science. You know, you have to be a polymath of sorts before you should dare to enter that realm with any degree of confidence, because otherwise all you are is a loose cannon, and you'll come up with global proposals to improve the world, you know, by waving your wand that will do nothing but make everything worse.
If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.
انا خوينا كان جرف فيه هو غادي باغي يخرجها وناري على حماري بالضبط.
Souriez un peu. Je vais bientôt rigoler, Inch'Allah. Pas maintenant.
Oh bien sûr.
C'est en bédouin qu'il revient sur scène. Lui, l'ex-dandy, Seif el-Islam Kadhafi, le fils du dictateur libyen Mouammar Kadhafi, se présente aux élections présidentielles de son pays.
Signez encore ici. Il signe et pose son empreinte.
C'est déjà rempli. C'est pour que tu le rentres dans le système.
Signature et empreinte digitale d'un homme que des rumeurs ont dit mort, fou, disparu, un fantôme, l'un des rares survivants de son clan.
C'est bon pour moi? C'est fini en ce qui me concerne? Oui? Docteur, je peux vous demander votre empreinte? Encore? Où ça?
L'instant est historique. Devant lui, les admirateurs.
On voudrait une photo tous ensemble.
Non, moi je voudrais une photo tout seul avec lui. On peut faire un selfie?
Finissons la procédure d'abord, puis nous prendrons des photos. La caméra est en train de tourner, c'est totalement inapproprié.
Il a organisé cette apparition dans le plus grand secret. Mais Seif el-Islam Kadhafi, autrefois si à l'aise face aux caméras, semble perdu, excédé.
C'est bon, arrête de filmer. C'est terminé.
Pas de programme politique, mais un très bref discours.
Ô Seigneur, tranche par la vérité entre nous et notre peuple, car tu es le meilleur des juges. Et Allah est souverain en son commandement. Quelque répulsion qu'on ait envers les mécréants. Que Dieu vous bénisse.
Un discours expédié par un homme qui joue pourtant son avenir en s'imposant dans le jeu politique libyen. Un jeu dangereux où il est menacé de mort. Sous le coup de plusieurs condamnations dans son propre pays, recherché par la Cour pénale internationale pour crimes contre l'humanité,
ناري انا
Seif
داروين
el-Islam Kadhafi
تعود
défie
صار.
les Libyens et le reste du monde en entrant officiellement en campagne. semble-t-il, espérait reprendre le pouvoir. Qui sont ses ennemis, ses soutiens? Enquête sur cet incroyable retour.
C'est très difficile de contacter quelqu'un considéré comme un criminel qui se cache peut-être dans le désert.
Il a survécu à plusieurs tentatives d'assassinat. Beaucoup de rumeurs disent qu'il aurait été tué.
Je savais que c'était le nom du fils de Muammar Kadhafi, mais c'est tout ce que je savais.
Parmi les fils de Kadhafi, il était le plus proche du peuple libyen.
La marche en avant de Saïf, personne ne pouvait l'arrêter.
C'était comme la cour du roi avec ses courtisans autour de lui et un harem de femmes qui le suivent partout.
Ses intentions et ses capacités restent inconnues.
Un destin fracassé par le printemps arabe. 15 février 2011, la rue libyenne rejette la dictature de son père. Le Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies vote le recours à la force en Libye.
La résolution 1973-2011 a été adoptée.
I made it clear that Gaddafi had lost the confidence of his people and the legitimacy to lead. And I said that he needed to step down from power.
En pleine révolution, le fils menace le président français. Après 8 mois d'offensive, le clan Kadhafi est décimé. Saïf el-Islam enlevé. Nous avons couvert la Libye avant, pendant et après la Révolution. Depuis sa capture le 19 novembre 2011, nous nous interrogeons sur le sort de Saïf el-Islam Kadhafi. Ses rares preuves de vie. L'ex-playboy va-t-il supporter l'humiliation de la prison? Est-il une menace? Un espoir? Au fil des années, nous nous rapprochons de son cercle intime. La vie de Saïf el-Islam Kadhafi résume le chaos libyen. Ce film est son histoire. Aujourd'hui, la Libye se déchire. Ce pays aux 6 frontières, grand comme 3 fois la France pour seulement 7 millions d'habitants. Porte d'entrée vers la Méditerranée et l'Europe, la Libye est un des pays les plus riches d'Afrique, grâce à son gaz et son pétrole.
شعل معك بالروس ولا allez ouais ça.
Très conservatrice, la société libyenne pratique l'islam sunnite. Depuis plus de 10 ans, Saïf el-Islam Kadhafi demeure une énigme. Parler de lui est un tabou. Notre équipe libyenne en témoigne.
Si j'ai été arrêté, c'est parce que j'interviewais des gens dans la rue à propos de Saïf al-Islam.
Les photographes de son clan refusent de collaborer avec nous. Il t'a dit quoi, le photographe?
Il m'a dit qu'avant la chute de
هو
Kadhafi,
كاين أصاحبي.
la famille a emporté avec elle toutes ses photos et archives. Donc il n'y aura rien chez aucun autre photographe.
Enquêter sur Saïf el-Islam Kadhafi, c'est se heurter à un mur de silence. Dans toutes les villes où ses proches ont trouvé refuge. En Libye, mais aussi à Rome, Vienne, Washington, Londres, Berlin, Tunis, Zintan, où il se cacherait encore. 2 hommes sont au cœur de nos investigations. Un milliardaire américain, ami de très longue date du fils Kadhafi. Un homme d'affaires libyen devenu son bras droit et exilé à Londres. Tous les deux exigent l'anonymat, question de sécurité, nous disent-ils. Voici nos premiers échanges.
Je dois vous rencontrer en personne avant de vous approuver. On peut se voir à 16 heures. J'aurai une réponse de Saïf aujourd'hui pour vous. Je n'ai pas eu de nouvelles des hommes de Saïf. Je veux vous mettre en contact directement avec les hommes de Seif.
You're about to learn something important. One of the best ways to tell if your leaders have intellectual grit of their own is to see how they've evolved over the decades. In that case, I think the clip that you're about to watch of Donald Trump all the way back in 1988 with Oprah Winfrey shows a strikingly similar kernel to Trump's politics as you see today. There's also some vital contrast I need to give you with Joe Biden because I just dug up some rare clips of him stating positions that he would rather you forget. But before I show you that, watch this segment from nearly 4 decades ago.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion. And yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And, hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
And it's that theory of trade protectionism that you eventually saw part of his policy on foreign trade as President 3.5 decades later. It's really a revelation to see a connecting line between his policy positions on trade today versus when he had no political ambitions at all. But even more so than that, I think there's a core to Donald Trump as a businessman that's consistent throughout, and that's his sheer aversion to ever being ripped off one way or another. Even if his writing, you see him talk about how he treats everything like a deal, and he's always had this trait of almost being paranoid at being taken advantage of unfairly. Now, sure, it did lead to a heating up of trade wars in his regime with countries like China and France, but perhaps it's just that attitude that eventually cools things down. I think this next clip demonstrates that example perfectly.
Macron, you know Macron? He's a very nice guy, Macron. And really a very nice guy. I said, Emmanuel, how are you? He said, fine. I said, I heard you're going to charge American companies 25% to do things in Mexico. Who else are you doing? Well, nobody yet, but we will do other. I said, no, but you're not going to do it, Emmanuel. You're not going to, no, don't. It has already passed. I said, well, you better unpass it. Because if you don't unpass it, you're going to pay a 100% tariff on all wines and champagnes that are shipped into the United States starting tonight. No, you cannot do that, Donald. You cannot do that. I said, I can do that. In fact, I'm just signing it right now. No. Okay, Donald, look, okay, I'm not going to try. We're not going to do it.
Perhaps trade wars are better than actual wars, and it's certainly interesting how a leader that's as flippant as Donald Trump can paradoxically become a deterrent on the international front. That's what happened as well when Donald Trump placed a massive 10% tariff on $100 billion worth of Chinese goods after assuming office, and then a 25% tariff on the remaining $300+ billion worth of goods to equalize what he believed was an unfair trade balance with China. It is interesting the commonality of that thought as far back as 1988.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not. But I do get tired of seeing the country ripped.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
Well, that's at least one thing that turned out different, and probably for the better for Donald Trump. There's 1,000 different things that can be said about him, but there's perhaps a high pride and ego about himself that translates into American pride when he's at the helm of the country. Whether that's healthier for him or the country is a separate debate, but seeing him say it like he sees it and calling out people or entire countries seems to be a common thread in his evolution over the decades. But even more so, that ego and pride to him lends a kind of self-confidence that looks delusional from the outside looking in, and that's exactly what someone may have thought about Donald Trump outright, saying he'd win the presidency if he tried, despite admitting he had no plans to do so at the time.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined. I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience is, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing. This country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
Maybe it's that unshakable confidence that his voter base finds appealing, seeing a kind of authenticity even in his flippant ego that's more attractive than false humility or virtue signaling. When you've been in the public eye for more than 5 decades, you leave a pattern for people to see. And the longer the pattern, the harder it is to fake. Perhaps it's harder to say the same for the man currently in office, because you don't need to go too far to see a complete shift in many of his policy positions in what almost seems to be led by the changing tides of larger culture. Getting on with the times is important when it impacts your own life, and that's why diversifying into precious metals with the help of birch gold is the best choice you could make. So click the link in the description or text the word FFIRA to 989898 to learn more. Now take this for example on patterns of opinion. I think it's very easy to forget what Joe Biden used to say on the issue of gay marriage in his vice presidency not too long ago, before flipping and going along with the tide of the time.
We are desperately concerned about the circumstance relating to avian flu. We don't have enough vaccines. We don't have enough police officers. And we're going to debate the next 3 weeks, I'm told, gay marriage, a flag amendment, and God only knows what else. I can't believe the American people can't see through this. We already have a law, the Defense of Marriage Act. We've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that. Nobody's violated that law. There's been no challenge to that law. Why do we need a constitutional amendment? Marriage is between a man and a woman. What's the game going on here?
Let's try to avoid nuance, Senator. Do you support gay marriage?
No, Barack Obama nor I support redefining from a civil side what constitutes marriage. We do not support that.
Now, of course, some might say it's simply an evolution of his true thought that happened in the span of a few years, and maybe that's true. But from the point of view of the electorate, perhaps it really does look like Joe Biden changes himself to fit in, rather than stand his intellectual ground and convince the culture around him to do the same. Someone that not too long ago stood firmly against redefining marriage to include gay couples, now invites transgender influencers like Dylan Mulvaney to the White House, just for how good he knows that would look to a certain segment of his base. We saw something similar in a much more serious context when he apologized for calling the illegal immigrant who ended
no Spanish
life as
amigo, no
illegal.
Spanish amigo.
Just take a look for yourself.
During your response to her heckling of you, you used the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley.
An undocumented person. And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented. And look, when I spoke about the difference between Trump and me, one of the things I talked about on the border was the way he talks about vermin, the way he talks about these people polluting the blood. I talked about what I'm not going to do, what I won't do. I'm not going to treat any of these people with disrespect. Look, they built the country. The reason our economy is growing. We have to control the border and more orderly flow, but I don't share his view at all.
So you regret using that word?
Yes.
can you really blame people for being confused on whether it's truly his own thoughts he has instead of plucking from the culture whatever he believes would look good on his resume? Joe Biden and Donald Trump are both very different characters, and that is something that we can talk about all day. But perhaps these clips reveal at least one trait that makes Biden and Trump viewed very differently by the American voter base.
Biden is just so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country.
You should make a diss track on it.
Yeah, we'll do something.
Do you think that you're starting to soften your views on some of the networks that you may have not gotten along with in the past?
No, they're fake news.
You had a street fight this past week.
And how did it work out?
How you think, Mr. President?
I think you probably did pretty good. I've watched enough of you fight.
Unidentified aerial phenomena in the sky. You don't know what they are, do you?
It's very possible. Really powerful stuff. AI. They made a commercial of me promoting a product.
GG.
It wasn't me. And I said, did I make that commercial?
Big rat beef just happened.
بدل شي الفريق.
How are you, Bob? Yeah, he's actually. With Jake? Yeah, we do now. But it's not always been like that.
It's always been, yeah, I can imagine.
Right, my brother. Yeah, it's good.
Taylor Tyson, we got.
Yeah, right.
Who you got?
When is that going to be?
November. It got rescheduled.
Look, Mike was fantastic, but, you know, Mike's a little older now.
Yeah.
And you guys can fight.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that, but you guys can really fight, legitimately fight.
Thanks, man.
At first I said, it's so amazing, because I always thought like a UFC guy or a top, even contender would.
Oh, nice.
You think?
فقرات.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
The clock is still the clock.
Yeah. I figured that out with Floyd as well.
Yeah, how about that? Huh?
I don't know.
Everything was even.
Yeah, which
You
shouldn't
would
make.
have thought you would have won that fight.
That's what I thought.
It was your pick.
Some people still think you did win that.
You guys.
Oh, no way. We got gifts.
Sells for a lot of money this.
Oh, no way. Thank you, President.
Let's just put it up. Here's.
Oh, amazing.
This is
Is this your mugshot?
Yeah, can you?
You're a gangster.
This is what we're reduced to.
No way.
Should we put on now?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's amazing.
And it sells. Well, Elvis had one, Frank Sinatra had one.
This shirt,
We've been clips them. A long time ago, we were clips them.
This is crazy.
It's pretty good. Isn't it cool?
I have to be honest, I'm
It's
jealous.
actually, I'm not sure if I love it or not, but
No,
it is what it is.
It happened with Michael Martin.
well, Mr. President, people surely love this. They're rallying behind it now. More than ever.
We had the biggest fundraising, I think, ever for any candidate ever anywhere in the world in the last 8 or 9 days. In hundreds of millions of dollars, and too bad it couldn't have been done for other reasons, but they viewed the case as being so corrupt and so ridiculous. Every one of the legal pundits, and they're great guys there. When you look at Dershowitz, the whole group, that whole group of people, Andy McCarthy, Jonathan Turley, Greg Jarrett, every one of them, they came out and they said, there's not even a case here. There's no case. And when they saw the jury instructions, when they saw all the things that happened, and it's not like anybody's a friend of mine. Mark Levin is an example. They couldn't believe it. So unfair. It's a very unfair thing. And because of that, the fundraising numbers and the polls, but the fundraising, that's sort of like a poll anyway, right? When you get right down to it. But the fundraising numbers went, I don't think there's ever been that much money raised that quickly.
You've become a martyr.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's insane. $140 million in name that you raised.
Just
35 million in just hours after you did it.
Yeah, 58 million within a few hours, and that was in small donations, like $71 something average. And over a period of a week, we even went to San Francisco. Now, not supposed to be. It's the belly of the beast, right?
Rare visit.
But they had thousands of people on the street. It was so positive, and they raised $12 million. The tech guys at one of the houses, David, fantastic people, and they were like, they gave me a lot of money. They've never been into doing that. And I think it helps that Biden is just so bad. He is so bad. He is the worst president in the history of our country. So that helps too.
You should make a diss track on him.
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll do something.
Jo, musi pieniędzy.
I actually wanted to start there.
Go ahead.
Because one thing that I just can't seem to wrap my head around it is, you know, you got these felony convictions and a lot of them, like more than Al Capone, right? And there was an uprising and people showed you their support with their donations. And a lot of people are saying it points out to actually the unjust nature of America's justice system. So my question is, like, if that is your belief, if that is their belief, why do you have the desire to give your time and energy to a country or a system that's trying to take you down?
So I ran twice. I did much better the second time than the first time. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have done this. But we had it going like this country has never been going before. It was really good. Now it's really bad. The worst border in history. The worst inflation, I think, in history. I think the history of the country. The people are getting decimated by it. All very flexible. You know, all something you can fix. You can fix it fast. We were energy independent. We were going to be energy dominant very soon. All these things were happening. And then we had a terrible result in an election. And what happened was disgraceful, and we can't ever let it happen again. But, you know, we have a little expression, it's right on that hat, make America great again. And we can do that, make America great again. And this guy is not going to do it. This guy has destroyed our country. When you allow 15, 16, 17, they have no idea where the Godaway is. Million people coming out of jails, coming out of mental institutions, insane asylum. The insane asylums all over the world, the mental institutions, they're at the lowest levels they've been at it for years. They're going to be totally empty. And you have terrorists coming into our country. We're going to be paying a big price, and we're going to solve the problem. We're going to solve it relatively quickly. But we have other problems too, with energy, with inflation. He's been a disaster as a president. He's the worst president we've ever had. The good news is he makes Jimmy Carter look brilliant by comparison, so Jimmy Carter's the only one that's happy with this.
Well, look, I think that's why a lot of people are so obsessed with you, Mr. Trump, Mr. President Trump. Well, because you're already a billionaire, right? You are essentially serving these people, and you don't have to be doing it. Being the president seems like a very hard job. You were at 3 meetings just before this. But I guess I'm asking, like, the desire to run and attempt to improve your country for these things you're saying becomes from what? Just the love of the country?
Well, the people, I'll tell you, when you look at the people, when you look at the crowds, I did a rally in New Jersey. We had 107,000 people there. You saw that last week. We did one in the Bronx. We had 25,000 people. And this was in the South Bronx, which is known as a rough area. And it was like a love fest. There was not even, like, nobody even raised a voice of dissent. The whole place, it was like a big love fest. Nobody could believe it. You saw that 3-4 weeks ago. There's tremendous, our country has tremendous potential, but it's going down the tubes very, very rapidly. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. So bad. And we can change it quickly. There's a debate coming up, that'll be interesting.
June 27th, hosted by one of your favorite television networks, CNN.
Well, they gave me the option. They said, would you do it? And they didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it. So they gave me everything. Fake Tapper and lots of other people that were gonna, were involved. On CNN, they wanted it to be seated, which I didn't like. I said we should stand, and I think we won that point. But I would have agreed to whatever I had to agree to because they didn't want to do it. They thought that I wouldn't do it because it's CNN, but I've done plenty of CNN. I did a town hall not so long ago with CNN that worked out well. But I think they'll be fair. I think they're going to try and be fair, as fair as they can be. But I think it's important for there to be a debate. So they said, you want to debate? Yep, I'll accept. You don't even have to tell me. Then they said CNN. They said the different people that are involved. But let's see what happens. I used to get along with Jake Tapper. We'll see what happens. But it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it is.
That sentiment that CNN might be fair to you
they might be.
is a bit of a departure
I'd
from
say a
your
good
normal
10% chance.
From your normal hardline stance. Do you think that you're starting to come around or soften your views on some of the networks that you may have not gotten along with in the past?
No, they're fake news.
Yeah, fake news.
No, they're so bad. One of the good terms, right? Fake news. But no, I don't think so. I thought maybe, you know, I had one with Caitlin Collins about 4 or 5 months ago. It was one of the highest rated shows they've ever had. And I really thought they were going to go maybe
Bro, wat oplakken
in the
hoor.
middle. But I was wrong about, as I'm getting on and I'm hearing the way I'm being announced, they said, hey, these people are playing hardball. They're making a big mistake. But the ratings for this debate, I guess, will be quite good.
Massive. Are you surprised by his decision to face-to-face with you?
You mean the fact that they're willing to do it?
That Biden's
A little bit. They didn't want to do it. They thought I turned CNN down. Look, CNN is the enemy. And they thought I was going to turn CNN. And Tapper is, you know, one of the guys that, I mean, when I'm making a speech, so they're waiting for the nomination for months and months. I got it in the quickest fashion. Nobody's ever gotten a nomination so quickly. And I'm making my nomination speech and they refuse to put it. They're covering it for months and months. Now I'm actually making my speech. I mean, this is the big night. I won the nomination and they refuse to put it on. These are people that don't like Trump. But it's okay because I think it's important to have a debate. Or a number of debates, actually.
The fact that you are so vocal as well, especially on social media, I think works in your favor. And personally, I like that you come with receipts. Sometimes,
yeah.
I've seen you pull them out of your,
no, I
your jacket. Will you have receipts?
I like to do it.
Well, fact checking is fun.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna check a lot of things. It's gonna be an interesting. You will be watching, right?
I'll be watching.
We just don't want to schedule it around one of your fights.
Please don't. Please don't.
You do pretty well.
Thanks. I'll be watching. Yeah, I always see you at
So
UFC.
by the way, do you ever fight your brother?
That's the question. You want to know something?
I want to know.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
because you are both good. Do you ever fight him?
Thank you. I not real life.
You practiced a little bit.
Never. We've never even sparred.
Really?
We don't know. I think.
Well, did you beat him up your whole life?
I didn't. I punched him in the face once because he took my glasses. But I was willing to step in for Mike Tyson when Tyson got sick and had to postpone his fight, and we actually like ran it up the chain in Netflix.
It's hard for brothers to fight, though. I think it's hard.
Not on
I've seen
Netflix
it
for a big old bag, like figure it out once and for all.
I think it's. You don't think so? You love your brother?
Well, me and Jake decided that obviously, like, we both come from a place of love, and whatever the outcome would be, we'd have to be okay with it. But obviously, I love my
but
brother.
the shots to the face and.
Just one time though, for the rest of history, you know, that night goes down forever. The Klitschko brothers never did it.
No, they never did it, and they were both good, and they never did it. They were very good, but in fact, nobody really figured out maybe who was better. They had some good fights. They were tough, right?
Yeah, well, Jake's tough and he's good, but I'm one of those.
He's very good, and you're very good.
He had a street fight this past week against somebody from a squad you may know as the Nelk from the Nelk Boys.
Oh, right. When you said you had it out with them?
An actual street fight.
No, but a friendly one or an unfriendly one?
Oh, it was pretty unfriendly. I was there.
I would call it a waiver fight.
They have a great following, though. They're nice guys.
We love them.
They have such a. You do.
Oh,
I'm glad because I'm getting myself into a position. They really are. They did. Dana White, who's fantastic
for sure.
He said, "Would you do the Nelk Boys?" I didn't know who they were. I did it, and they have a tremendous audience, which you can
ferocious.
Right away. I did Dr. Phil the other day.
I saw it.
Yeah, amazing.
We love the Nelk Boys, by the way. The Nelk Boy we're talking about is like a kind of like
his name's Bradley Martin. He's a big fitness guy because we know Kyle Forgard, Kyle, and John Shahidi for years now.
They're great.
Bradley's this big 260-pound, bodybuilder, and for years he's called people out. I'm 260. I'm 260. I'll fight you, and got into it with Logan.
And how did it work out?
How you think, Mr. President?
I think you probably did pretty good. I've watched enough of you fight.
It was off camera. It was cool. It was like a duel, like a good old fashioned, just boys being boys. No cameras.
It was a real deal.
The real deal.
And
no rules.
Was he finished?
Yeah.
He quit.
He did.
But we're very impressed with him. Actually,
he showed up.
He has no combat sports experience.
Yep.
Stepped up.
He just had muscle.
هذا الوقت العربات.
You ever been in a fist fight, Mr. President?
يعني تقبات.
Probably not. I've been like little just nothing like. I mean, I'd like to say, I fought my way through school. Right. I fought my way out of the Wharton School of Finance. But we didn't have a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
We have fighters, but not that kind of fighters. But I've had a lot of fun. I'll tell you, we had a great time.